Alright, I don't know if this has been covered or not. It probably has. It's really not that tough of a job, but it is really nasty. So you're going to need a triple square bit and an extension for your probably breaker bar to get the bolts out of the joint while it's in the car. You're going to need some hand sanitizer. I like Fast Orange. You're going to need some gloves. You're going to need a couple rolls of shop towels probably. You need a hammer, obviously new joints or boots, and you're going to probably need some plastic bags so you can do like I did, cover this. When you take it, especially if you're not in a garage, if you are outside, once you take the axles off, put a bag like this over the differential, over that little opening basically where it mates to the differential, so that you don't get any dust or crap in there. And you're going to want some of these guys, what are they called? Circlip pliers. These are Husky, I guess. These screw inside and outside, so you can do interior or exterior circlips. The circlips on this are an incredible pain in the ass. You might want some shades, because when you take the circlips off, you should wear some eye protection, because it, bam, pop in your eye and blind you. So basically, take them off. Yeah, that's an art form in itself. So when you take it off, it's probably going to be pretty covered in crap, especially if the boot is torn. I've already cleaned this one up significantly. And there you can see the circlip, if it would focus. And anyway, basically I'm going to slide that boot back, try to clean it up some, and then this is basically, once that boot is detached, a lot of times they stick on there, the boot kind of jams onto the joint, but once that's loose, this thing, this outer ring and the balls can just fall out, so be careful. If it turns very far, and the boots or something else isn't there to stop it, it can easily just, all the balls and this outer ring fall off. So now I've slid the boot way back, and this is what I mean. Let this thing go really far, it will just pop off. Balls are in the back are falling out, you can't see them, but now, there it goes. The grease is kind of holding them in, but the ball just fell into my hand. Oh, and now the whole thing is going to come off. So this is what it's going to look like when you get the outer ring and the ball bearings out. This cage goes around this the inner hub, whatever you want to call it, and is captive when it's on the axle. This is obvious when you take it off, but don't forget to put it on there before you press the inner thing, the inner hub back on, because there's no way to get it on. If you put this inner thing on there without the cage, you're gonna be pissed, because you're gonna have to take it back off. Something that a lot of people say, I think there's a difference between the manual and the automatic. I think well, I have an automatic and the axles are the same, and I think on a manual one is shorter, but it's a good idea to switch them, because then you'll wear the opposite faces of these hubs, and anyway, just more even wear. Good idea to inspect it. You got your over here. Still looks pretty good. There's some wear on the faces. The bearings look pretty good. Ball bearings look pretty good. So I'm gonna keep using them. And I think that was all I was gonna say. The circlip is a real pain. Don't try to pound it off before you take the circlip off. It certainly won't go anywhere. So I guess I'm gonna take the circlip off, and then I'm gonna put it in the little setup I made for pounding it off of there. So I want to show how this works. It even says on the back, wear safety goggles. So basically, put it in there, find the little gap. Whoops. You put it in there, and then squeeze. Anyway, the little nubs will catch, and then you whoop, and lift it off. Or more likely, I'm gonna kind of cover it with a rag so it doesn't fly away and get lost, and then lift it off. And a lot of times it kind of pops, of course. But so this, anyway, these are reversible, and I want to show how that works. This way, you squeeze it and it spreads it. If you reverse it, it squeeze it. When you squeeze it, it actually gets smaller. So that's really cool. These are, instead of having two separate ones, an inner and an outer. I like this tool a lot, but well, this is a cheap version of this tool. Alright, I finally got the circlip off. It took about 10 tries. I think it's a good idea to keep all the parts to the joint together since it's kind of a matched set. I don't think that matters for the screws so much though. So here's my ghetto rig. Obviously if you have a press, that's a lot better. Anyway, the two things to keep in mind are make sure this doesn't slip out, because you want to be sure that you're pounding on that inner hub, or that the inner hub is what is taking the force upwards when you're pounding downwards, and that this ring is loose, because that ring is the most fragile part. So I think the reason you don't want to hammer on this face directly, of course. So if you have a dowel that's the same size, that would probably work. But I think that the reason this hole is here is so that you can use a screwdriver and hammer it out that way. Obviously put something below it that is kind of soft, because it's going to fall out and you don't want it to land on your foot or land and screw up the, whatever it's called, CV, the joint on the other side. Alright, so we got it off, and now these two parts will come apart. So it's real easy to screw this up when you're putting it back together and just pound that part on there, and then you're totally screwed, because that is not going to go on. I got this little mini sledge. These things are great. Oh, and what I realized is you only have to actually take this off of one side, because slid the boot way down here, I can slide it off and slide the other boot off. And I've done this job before and not realized that. It's real easy to not realize that, I think. So even though you're replacing both boots, you really only have to take it off of one side. Having said that, I'm sure people are going to say, oh, but you really need to clean it. And you can't clean it as well. When the thing is still on there, you can't clean it perfectly. But I think you can clean it pretty dang well. You can clean it better if it's completely disassembled, but whatever. So I just read on the Samba, these boots wore out really quickly. One of them was less than a year old, and there are these grooves in here that appear to be where you want it to, it seems like that's where it wants to ride, the outside of the boot, and they always come with zip ties or what are they called, like those clamps that, anyway, the screw clamps that you're supposed to put on there. And what I read on the Samba, I think I pulled mine out a little bit and I zip tied them pretty tightly, and they wore out really quickly. And what people in the Samba said, I think, was basically have them a little bit inside of there, the end of the boot, and don't use the zip tie. Maybe it will lose a little bit of grease, probably won't, but apparently that will make it not wear out so quickly, and that's really important, because I can't believe this. These are less than 30,000 miles, and one of them was less than 10,000 miles, which is totally ridiculous. Alright, so now I'll hold this whipped. Make sure it's slotted in there correctly. Make sure the splines are lining up, of course. Put a piece of wood on top and pound it in there till it bottoms out, and then move it over here, and then boop, just do that last little part so that it's past the circlip, and just kind of keep checking it until, oh, it looks like it's past the circlip.